Day 146 of the war in Gaza. IDF forces in the south are engaged in ongoing mop-up operations in and around Khan Yunis. The IDF is also involved in coordinating multinational airdrops of humanitarian aid to civilians in need. More on this from ILTV's Steve Leibovitz.
The Air Force struck multiple targets in Gaza shortly after rockets were fired at Ashkelon. Hamas's ability to fire rockets from Gaza have been reduced to a trickle since the start of the war as the IDF gained control of most areas of Gaza. Hamas is still trying to keep firing, but each time it does, the launch site is quickly attacked by the Army or Air Force. Troops in Khan Yunis continue operations targeting terror tunnels and infrastructure. The 7th Brigade raided buildings and recovered weapons and military equipment. Further north in Gaza, in Zaytun, the IDF 162nd Division identified a terrorist squad which was eliminated by a combat helicopter. IDF forces also attacked buildings used by Hamas in the Al Amal neighborhood and raided infrastructure in the Absan neighborhood, killing dozens of terrorists and finding weapons. Meanwhile, the IDF announced its involvement in a joint coordinated effort of airdropping various humanitarian supplies to Gazan residents to avoid aid being pilfered by Hamas gunmen.
Yesterday, an airdrop operation successfully delivered 160 packages of food and medical supplies to southern Gaza and to the Jordanian Field Hospital in Khan Yunis. This collaborative effort involved Israel, the UAE, Jordan, Egypt, France, and the United States. We say again, there is no limit to the amount of humanitarian aid for the civilians in Gaza. After nearly 5 months of war against Hamas, we know that once humanitarian aid does get in, the terror organization Hamas takes over. Looting is also a problem. But we are working with the Biden administration to find ways to improve the humanitarian assistance delivery.
The airdrops were made necessary after masked Hamas gunmen are repeatedly seen pilfering aid delivered overland from the Egyptian border.
ضمت العملية 4 طائرات إنزال، 3 طائرات C-130 أردنية وطائرة C-130 فرنسية تابعة للقوات الفرنسية. استهدفت هذه المساعدات وللمرة الثانية إيصال المساعدات الإنسانية. هذه الإنزالات استهدفت إيصال المساعدات الإنسانية إلى المواطنين في قطاع غزة بشكل مباشر.
The coordinated effort saw supplies such as food and medical equipment airdropped to residents of southern Gaza and the Jordanian Field Hospital. Aid distribution did not go smoothly. Hamas health officials say that more than 70 Palestinians were killed while trying to get humanitarian aid in Gaza City. The army said that as humanitarian aid was being delivered to the northern Gaza Strip, a violent gathering erupted surrounding the trucks. Gazans were injured as a result of pushing and trampling. The IDF said that the incident is under review.
And the families of Israeli hostages, joined by a growing number of supporters, are continuing their 4-day march from the Gaza border to Jerusalem to bring attention to the plight of some 134 captives still held by Hamas since October 7th. This as the Security Cabinet meets to discuss the next moves as mediation efforts continue in Qatar. More from ILTV's Devo Klein.
The Security Cabinet is meeting today amid efforts to advance the deal that U.S., Egyptian, and Qatari mediators have proposed to free Israeli hostages in exchange for an extended pause in fighting. The talks have been ongoing in Doha, and the Cabinet will decide whether to continue or to wait for Hamas flexibility in its demands. The U.S. draft proposal reportedly provides for a 6-week pause in fighting, during which some 40 hostages would be freed in exchange for some 400 Palestinian security prisoners. Egyptian President El-Sisi expressed hope that there may be a deal reached soon. Hamas political chief Ismail Haniyeh claimed that the terror group is showing flexibility in talks, but is also prepared to continue to fight.
وإن أي مرونة نبديها في التفاوض حرصاً على دماء شعبنا ولوضع حد لآلامه الكبيرة وتضحياته الجسام في حرب الإبادة الوحشية ضده يوازيها استعداد للدفاع عن شعبنا.
In the televised speech, Haniyeh also called on the so-called axis of resistance to step up its attacks on Israel. Defense Minister Gallant accused the Hamas leader of trying to divert IDF attention from Gaza ahead of the Ramadan holiday.
היעד העליון של חמאס בעת הזאתי היא לגרום לכך שבהר הבית תהיה התלקחות, וכתוצאה מכך אנחנו נאלץ להסיר חלק מהלחץ ממנו ולהפנות משאבים וכוחות לכיוון יהודה ושומרון וירושלים. את זה אסור לנו לתת לו.
Meanwhile, thousands of Israelis have now joined families of hostages held in Gaza in their 4-day march from the Gaza border to Jerusalem. The families are demanding that the government do all in its power to bring their loved ones home. The march is due to arrive in the Israeli capital on Saturday.
We just want our loved ones back home immediately now. We need everyone to remember 134 hostages that are taken from home or from the party, from the base, and we must have them all back now.
And moving on, Defense Minister Gallant dropped a political bombshell over ultra-Orthodox draft issue that could threaten the governing coalition. After Gallant said the ultra-Orthodox must begin sharing the military burden Haredi politicians quickly threatened the Netanyahu-led coalition. More on this from ILTV's William Sharon.
Citing manpower shortages in the IDF, Defense Minister Gallant said that after October 7th, it is essential that the ultra-Orthodox share the military burden.
התורה שמרה על עם ישראל לאורך 2000 שנות גלות. אנו מוקירים ומעריכים את אלו המקדישים את חייהם ללימוד התורה. עם זאת, ללא קיום פיזי, אין קיום רוחני.
Gallant said that he would only back legislation on the draft issues if it is endorsed by centrist ministers Benny Gantz and Gadi Eisenkot.
כל חוק גיוס שיהיה מוסכם על כל מפלגות ממשלת החירום יהיה מקובל עליי.
Several ultra-Orthodox political figures were quick to denounce Gallant's comments and said that the Netanyahu-led coalition could be in danger. Earlier this week, National Unity Ministers Benny Gantz and Gadi Eisenkot presented an outline for the enlistment of Arabs and ultra-Orthodox Jews into the Israeli army. Gallant's comments came amid growing pressure on the government to reach a resolution on the long-drafted issue that allows mass IDF exemptions for Torah study.
And joining us now with more on the Israeli Defense Minister's press conference and its implications is Rabbi Dov Litman, former Knesset member for Yesh Atid and founder and CEO of Yad Le'olim. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So Gallant held a press conference on his own last night and addressed the issue of ultra-Orthodox drafting into the army. What can you maybe briefly break down this issue for us?
Absolutely. It's critical for everyone who's watching to understand that this announcement can literally be the source of breaking apart this government. By April 1st, if there is no legislation that's agreed to by this government, then the funding to the ultra-Orthodox institutions will not go through, and they will not be able to continue being part of a government without that funding. For years and years, there's been an issue in Israel about the ultra-Orthodox yeshiva students not serving in the army and trying to find some legislation which creates equality, that it can't be that an entire population doesn't serve and everyone else does serve. And now it's coming to a head because Gallant, the defense minister, has said he won't bring a law unless the entire government agrees, including Benny Gantz's party, and that's going to be an issue where finding some kind of legislation which the ultra-Orthodox accept and Benny Gantz, who wants to see a more wider draft, accepts, that might lead to this problem of the government falling apart.
But why would Gallant address this issue so publicly now, right in the middle of the war?
It's actually specifically because of the war. The war has brought two things into effect. Number one, broader Israel is saying we can no longer continue a situation where the ultra-Orthodox en masse are not serving. We're realizing that there's a gap in terms of manpower in the army. Many people are attributing October 7th to a lack of manpower in the army. Certainly moving forward with a war in Gaza, possibly in the north, we need more soldiers, and therefore they're saying the ultra-Orthodox must serve, but even more significantly, in the ultra-Orthodox community. there has been a significant awakening where they're saying, both adults, older people, and the young people, they're saying, we need to be part of this. We see the threat to our people. We see what happened October 7th. We have to be part of this as well. And let's find a way, perhaps, for more ultra-Orthodox young men to actually join the army. So it's coming from both directions, that there's a move for it, and Gallant is picking up on that movement.
And yet, there are many who are criticizing him for undermining the coalition and possibly, as you mentioned, throwing Israel into elections now. I mean, what's your analysis on that?
It's possible that Yoav Gallant actually feels that the best thing for Israel may be to go to elections. It could be that he feels that there is a problem in leadership. Again, I'm not in the war cabinet to see what's happening, but there are dynamics between him and Netanyahu that are not so simple, and maybe he does feel it is that time. And on a certain level, right now, the Knesset will become very active once again about this issue, which has thrown us to elections many times. I was elected in 2013 because a government fell apart a year beforehand over this specific issue. But I think Gallant might actually feel the country needs to address this issue, number one. And number two, maybe the country does need to not go back to polarization. And maybe the best way to do that will be through elections. So that might have been part of his calculation. I will say, the voices that I'm hearing from the ultra-Orthodox community, they're ready for some kind of a change. They're ready for legislation which drafts more of them. And we'll have to see how the various power players in this whole episode work together or don't work together to try to resolve or get us to elections.
So there is an historic opportunity here. What is likely to happen now moving forward? Because, as we've said multiple times, we are in the middle of a war. So what, you said April 1st is the deadline. What can we expect in the coming weeks, months?
I do believe it's very possible that the ultra-Orthodox leadership will sit together with Benny Gantz and they will try to find some kind of a model that works moving forward. And the basic model will be those who are studying Torah, the religious texts, morning, afternoon, night, as their only pursuit, we will preserve them to keep studying the Torah. But there's tens of thousands in the ultra-Orthodox community who are getting exemptions who are not in that category. And I do believe that they might be open to serving in this period of time, and some of the rabbinic leadership sees that as well. So I do believe, like you said, this could be a historic opportunity to get something done on this front. If not, the historic opportunity is going to be an election, which I do know Likud and the existing powers that be don't want to happen. So they might actually feel pressure to compromise on the draft issue. I'm certainly, as one who has worked on this issue for over a decade, hoping that the quiet voices that I've heard for years and the ultra-Orthodox community saying we do want to serve, hopefully those will become louder voices. Maybe a compromise will be found, and we can finally maintain the unity that we've had during the war moving forward as well.
Absolutely. Let's hope so. Rabbi Dov Litman, thank you so much for your analysis today.
Thank you for having me.
Experience the power of truth with ILTV News. If you're looking for quality content and captivating visuals, join our news community and become an integral part of our team as we embark on a mission to unveil the real Israel, dismantling the web of lies and misinformation that surround reporting on Israel. By subscribing to ILTV News, you will not only have access to the latest updates, but you will also amplify our message, creating a ripple effect that carries the truth far and wide. Subscribe today and help reshape the narrative. Available on the web, Android, and Apple. And in yet another major escalation on the northern front, rocket sirens were heard near Israel's northern city of Haifa on Thursday, as the Iron Dome defense system intercepted rockets fired by Hezbollah. This after strikes in Damascus overnight attributed to Israel killed at least 2 Hezbollah operatives in the latest offensive against the Iranian-backed terror group. At least 2 members of Hezbollah were killed in airstrikes attributed to Israel in Damascus, according to the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights. The War Monitor group said there were 4 explosions heard and that the strikes targeted 2 buildings, one reportedly a training center for Hezbollah militias in the Sayyida Zainab neighborhood in Damascus, a neighborhood reportedly known for its strong presence of Iranian-backed militias. Syria's defense ministry said in a statement that Israel launched airstrikes from the Golan Heights targeting a number of sites in the Damascus countryside. The ministry claimed the damage was minimal to material as most missiles were shot down, though footage circulated of the explosions show this was not the case. The strike on Damascus is the latest attack against Iranian-backed forces operating in the country. Meanwhile, Hezbollah continues to fire missiles into Israel from southern Lebanon, with red alert sirens continuing to sound in the Galilee region on Thursday. In response to the ongoing missile fire, the IDF overnight hit several Hezbollah terrorist infrastructure targets, including sites where missiles had been fired from. And moving on, following October 7th, there has been an astronomical rise in anti-Semitism around the world. But it's all the more evident on university campuses, which have failed to protect their Jewish students. And now, alumni of some of the most prestigious universities in the world are speaking out and taking action. Harvard University was thrust into the spotlight after its then-president Claudine Gay refused to say that calling for the genocide of Jews was against the university's policy. Now, Harvard alumni are suing the university over its anti-Semitism. Joining us with more on this is Nitzana Darshan-Leitner, founder and president of Shurat Hadin, and one of the lawyers bringing forward this lawsuit. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So, Nitzana, what can you tell us in brief about this lawsuit? Who is suing Harvard and why exactly?
This lawsuit is brought by 10 alumni of Harvard University that claim that the conduct of Harvard by allowing this wild anti-Semitism to escalate in the campuses and this expression and demonstrations and anti-Israel bashing in the university and this violence against Jewish students in the university devaluated their diploma, harmed the diploma that they received from Harvard. Harvard's degree is no longer valuable as it used to be. Many offices declared that they are not going to hire alumni from Harvard University anymore because of this conduct. They got harmed, and this is why they're filing this lawsuit against the university.
And is there a precedent to this? I mean, has a university ever been sued for its failure to halt anti-Semitism?
No, I don't think there were any precedents regarding anti-Semitism, although perhaps there are legal actions that some students, current students, are taking against the university. This is the first time alumni are suing the university for not caring about the prestige of their degree. In the end, these students invested a lot of money in their degree. The university had an obligation to make sure that this degree will not be devaluated by conduct that they can be in charge of, they can be preventing. They failed to do so, and this is the first time the university, any university, is sued by alumni. I call any alumni from any other university to file a lawsuit against the university as well. We know it's not only Harvard, it's Penn University, it's other universities that just allow the anti-Semitism to go wild in their campuses.
And so what do you hope this lawsuit will accomplish? You know, and could it pave the way for legal action against universities who fail to protect their Jewish students?
Absolutely. Look, sometimes when you bring this lawsuit, the university immediately changes conduct. I expect to see Harvard University steered back to be an objective university that, to the side of freedom of speech, don't allow freedom of violence and Israel hatred. We all in favor of freedom of academy, freedom of expression, but you cannot let your students yell, "Gas the Jews," or "From the river to the sea," and insist that it depends on context. It does not. I hope that by this lawsuit, not only Harvard University will go back and restrain those Israel haters, but other universities will follow this path.
All right, Nitzana Darshan-Leitner, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today.
Thank you very much.
And an incredible achievement for Sheba Medical Center in Tel Aviv. The Israeli hospital was ranked among the top 10 best hospitals in the world, according to Newsweek's annual hospital rankings. ILTV's Devo Klein has the full report.
Sheba Medical Center in Tel Aviv was ranked as one of the 10 best hospitals in the world, according to the annual Newsweek ranking of the world's best medical centers. Sheba was ranked in 9th place. The top 3 hospitals were the U.S.-based Mayo Clinic and Cleveland Clinic and Canadian-based Toronto General Hospital. The list includes data on 2,400 hospitals across 30 countries. According to the magazine, the ranking is based on an online survey of more than 85,000 medical experts and public data from post-hospitalization patient surveys on their general satisfaction. It also considers metrics on hygiene, patient-doctor ratio, and patient outcomes. Also among the 250 best hospitals in the world, Sourasky Medical Center's Ichilov Hospital in Tel Aviv was ranked 64th, and Bellinson Medical Center was ranked 158th. Professor Yitzhak Reis, director of the Sheba Medical Center, said in a statement that this ranking represents a resounding endorsement by colleagues around the world. He said that Sheba is working diligently to make Israel a better, healthier place, and highlights our abilities to be both a center of medical excellence as well as a beacon of coexistence, where Jewish and Arab medical personnel are working side by side 24/7 to save the lives of civilians and soldiers, Jews, Muslims, and Christians alike. The hospital said that since the start of the war, it had achieved an unprecedented 98% survival rate after serious battle injuries, and highlighted its rehabilitation program that incorporates physical and emotional recovery. As such, Kreis noted that the past 5 months, since October 7th, significantly challenged the hospital and forced it to adapt, but added that it also demonstrated its resilience and unwavering commitment to providing cutting-edge care for all patients.
And our final story tonight, the Genesis Prize, also known as the Jewish Nobel Prize, is one of the most prestigious awards in the Jewish world. And this year, in the aftermath of October 7th, the prize will be awarded to organizations that are helping the hostages. Let's take a look at the report. The Genesis Prize Foundation announced on Wednesday that it's awarding its prestigious $1 million 2024 Genesis Prize, also known as the Jewish Nobel Prize, to Israeli organizations providing treatment, counseling, and support to the released and rescued hostages and to their families. The foundation also said it would contribute to the international public awareness campaign to ensure that the plight of the hostages remains on top of the agenda of global leaders. The 5 Israeli organizations who will be recipients of the prize are the Hostages and Missing Families Forum, the Jaffe Fund for Victims of Terror, Lev Echad, Natal, the Israel Trauma and Resiliency Center, and One Family, Overcoming Terror Together. The foundation emphasized that the $1 million financial component of the Genesis Prize will be used exclusively to fund assistance to the hostages and to their families. Funded activities will include treatment, trauma, counseling, and social rehabilitation for released and rescued hostages. Co-founder of the Genesis Prize Foundation, Stan Polovitz, said that the award was not a political statement and that it was not the intent of the foundation to influence government policy, but rather said that the prize is a humanitarian award that this year seeks to achieve 3 things: ensure the world does not forget the plight of the captives, provide additional aid to organizations focused on assisting the hostages and their families, and last but not least, honor the selfless work of organizations that spontaneously emerged after October 7th. He added that the Genesis Prize is a recognition of their indomitable spirit and the inspiration they have provided to all people of conscience around the world. The annual prize honors extraordinary individuals for their outstanding professional achievements, contributions to humanity, and commitment to Jewish values. Past recipients of the prize include Natan Sharansky, Michael Bloomberg, Michael Douglas, Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Robert Kraft, Steven Spielberg, Rabbi Lord Jonathan Sachs, Albert Bourla, and Barbara Streisand. And now, let's take a look at the weather forecast. Clear skies are expected tonight with temperatures reaching lows of 11 degrees Celsius or 52 degrees Fahrenheit. Then tomorrow we should see cloudy skies and strong winds, then partly cloudy skies and rising temperatures over the weekend. featuring highs of 22 degrees Celsius or 70 degrees Fahrenheit. And that's all for today's news. For more updates from Israel on all your devices, check out our ILTV channel, subscribe to our ILTV newsletter, and don't forget to check out our new and improved website, ILTV.tv, with all the latest news from the heart of the State of Israel. I'm Madar Gavelazi. Be well, stay safe, and thank you so much for watching.